Chapter 3. The Road at Dusk. The light was slowly dying over the meadows of Ashrone. The bright colours of the afternoon had begun to fade into pale orange and tired gold, spreading across the sky like the last embers of a campfire. The sun rested low beyond the rolling hills, slowly sinking behind the distant ridge. Soon, the night would take the fields completely, and the open beauty of the meadow would turn into endless shadow. After their small and awkward victory with the rabbit, the four companions had continued walking for several more hours. At first, the success had given them a little hope, but hope became heavy when carried on tired legs. The grass still stretched endlessly around them, the mountains never seemed to come any closer, and the world remained very quiet in a way that made every step feel longer than it should have been. By the time the sky began to darken, even Beorne's loud confidence had started to weaken, mostly because his stomach had begun making sounds like a trapped animal. Elorion finally stopped near a shallow rise where the grass grew shorter and the ground looked dry enough to sleep on. He looked around carefully, then lowered his staff with a tired sigh. "We should stop here," he said. "If we keep walking in the dark, we might step into a hole, get lost, or discover something hungry before we discover anything useful." Marishka glanced toward the fading light and crossed his arms. His silver hair caught the last glow of the sunset, giving him the appearance of a tragic moonlit noble who had been forced to participate in outdoor suffering. "I hate that you are right," he said. "My feet hurt, my patience is dead, and if we keep walking I might start losing respect for grass as a concept." Beorne dropped onto the ground with a heavy thud, making the grass shake around him. "Camp sounds good," he said with great relief. "Camp means sitting, sitting means not walking means my legs might forgive me one day." Agivar remained standing with his bow in hand, his expression caught between pride and nervousness. He had already proven that he could hunt, but one rabbit was not enough to feed 4 people, especially when one of those people was Beorne. The huge barbarian looked at the earlier catch like it was a snack that had gotten lost on the way to becoming dinner. Marishka noticed the direction of Beorne's gaze and immediately pointed at Agivar. "No," he said firmly. "Do not even think about pretending that one rabbit is enough. Agivar, congratulations. You have been promoted from decorative drow statue to official food department." Agivar blinked. "Food department?" "Yes," Marishka replied without hesitation. "You are the ranger, you found the rabbit, you shot the rabbit. Therefore, by the sacred law of survival and party laziness, you are now responsible for finding more rabbits." Beorne nodded with serious agreement, as if Marishka had just delivered a royal decree. "I support this law," he said. "It is wise, fair, and very convenient for me." Agivar stared at both of them, then looked toward Elorion for help. Elorion gave him a calm, sympathetic smile that somehow did not help at all. "It would be useful if you hunted a little more before full dark," Elorion said. "We need food, and you are the only one who has actually made a successful survival attempt so far." "I failed the first shot so badly the bow made fun of me," Agivar said. "And then you succeeded," Elorion replied. "That is called growth." Marishka gave a small nod. "Painful, embarrassing growth, but growth." Agivar sighed and looked toward the darker patches of grass near the bushes. The meadow was quieter now, but not empty. He could hear faint rustling beneath the breeze, tiny movements hidden under leaves and stems. His drow eyes were not helping much in the dying light, but his other senses had begun to wake again, sharper than before, as if his body remembered skills his mind was only beginning to understand. "Fine," Agivar said, lifting his bow with reluctant confidence. "I will hunt more rabbits, but if I come back with dinner, nobody gets to complain about how small the portions are." Beorne raised one hand. "I will complain silently." "No, you will not," Marishka said. "I will complain emotionally," Beorne corrected. Elorion chuckled and began looking around for stones and dry grass to prepare a small camp. "Just stay close enough that we can still hear you," he said to Agivar. "Do not wander too far. We have no map, no proper supplies, and no idea what comes out here after sunset." Agivar gave him a nervous look. That was supposed to be comforting, right? "It was supposed to be practical," Elorion answered. "That is worse," Agivar muttered. With that, Agivar moved toward the low bushes at the edge of their makeshift camp, his bow held carefully in both hands. This time, he did not wait for a dice roll or some glowing game marker to tell him what to do. He listened to the grass, watched the shadows, and followed the faint sounds of life hidden beneath the fading light. Behind him, Beorne gathered what little dry brush he could find. Marishka complained about the ground not being worthy of his new body, and Elorian tried to figure out how 4 people were supposed to survive the night with no backpack, no rations, and no important rope. The sun continued to sink behind the distant ridge, and the meadows of Ashrone slowly turned from gold to grey. Their first camp in this strange world was not grand, safe, or comfortable, but it was theirs. For now, that had to be enough. Marishka pulled her thick cloak closer around her body and tried not to shiver too obviously. The air had changed fast. It was not freezing, but the cold had grown sharp enough to slip beneath her armor and crawl along her skin. "We need to get a fire going, bro," Marishka muttered, rubbing her gloved hands together. "I do not want our first night in Fantasyland to end with us freezing like abandoned leftovers." A few steps away, Beorne crouched over a small pile of twigs and dry grass. His enormous hands held 2 sticks, and his face carried the serious expression of a warrior preparing for battle. He rubbed one stick against the other with intense effort, as if he could intimidate fire into existing. "I am trying to do this," Beorne said with stubborn confidence. "I saw this on television. You rub the sticks together and then fire happens." Marishka stared at the sad pile of twigs. "How long have you been doing that?" Beorne paused and looked at the sky, as if the sunset could answer for him, long enough to feel betrayed by nature. "That means it is not working. It might work soon. Bro, at this rate the sun will come back before the fire starts." Beorne frowned at the sticks, personally offended by their lack of cooperation, then continued rubbing them with even more force. Nearby, Elorian sat cross-legged in the grass. His posture was perfect. His hands rested neatly on his knees, and his eyes were closed in what looked like deep meditation. The fading sunlight touched his golden copper skin and made him look like a noble statue carved for some ancient elven temple. For a while, Marishka had almost believed he was doing something useful. Then Beorne stood and walked closer. "Marishka," he whispered loudly. Marishka looked over. "What now?" "Come here." She sighed and walked beside him. "If this is about the sticks again, I swear I will throw them into the river even if there is no river." Beorne pointed at Elorian's face. Marishka leaned closer. Elorian's posture was still perfect. His expression was peaceful. His hands remained in place. His mouth, however, was slightly open. A thin line of drool slid from the corner of his lips. Marishka's face slowly filled with disappointment. "No way." Beorne nodded solemnly. "He has fallen asleep with style." "That is not meditation. That is a nap with posture." Beorne looked at her. "Should we wake him up?" Marishka narrowed her eyes. "Give me your finger." Beorne blinked. "Why?" "Just do it." The barbarian obediently made a fist and extended one thick finger. Marishka took his hand, guided it toward Elorian's face, and shoved the finger into the sleeping elf's open mouth. Elorian jolted awake instantly. "MMPH, what in the—" He choked, gagged, and grabbed Beorne's wrist with both hands. Beorne quickly pulled his finger away, looking both guilty and impressed. Elorian coughed several times, wiped his mouth with his sleeve, and glared at them with wounded dignity. "Was that necessary?" "Yes," Marishka said without hesitation. "You were drooling like a noble fountain." "I was meditating." "You were sleeping." "I was entering a deep state of arcane focus." "With your mouth open." Elorian looked away, embarrassed. "I may have lost consciousness somewhere in the middle of the process." Beorne raised his hand. "That means sleeping." Marishka crossed her arms beneath her cloak. "Good. Since you are awake now, did you figure out how your magic works?" Elorian's expression became complicated. "Not exactly." Marishka stared at him. Elorian sighed. "Halfway through meditation, I fell asleep." "Well, did you dream of a solution, or was that a waste of my patience?" "I did not dream of a solution," Elorian admitted. "If it makes you feel better, Mr. Dungeon Master, I failed with noble effort." "It does not make me feel better, it makes me colder." Beorne returned to the twigs with a tragic expression. "How can we make fire now? I am tired of rubbing sticks, bro, the sticks are winning." Marishka dropped back onto the grass and buried her face in one hand. "I cannot believe we are level 4 adventurers, and our first real enemy is basic camping.